All right, good morning. Today is October 8th, or is it 9th? It is October 8th, Wednesday. It is our quarterly Friends of the Fall Line uh, meeting, and we have a lot of great information to share and some excellent highlights. I appreciate everyone's time this morning, and um, I think all of my technology has been sorted out. I'm on location in Pocahontas State Park today at a conference, and think that everything is sorted. So appreciate it, and we can jump right in. The um, the big news, if you've been under a rock for the past couple of months, we have our first major section of the fall line opened in the northern end, affectionately known as DB1, for design build phase one. And this encompasses all of Hanover, all of Ashland, inclusive of the half-mile section that was built a few years ago, and a brand new bridge crossing the Chickahominy River to get into northern Henrico County, so right around 5 miles. And we had a wonderful ribbon cutting ceremony um, at the end of last month. And it's clear that all of our locality partners in the state are really proud, and it was clear how much people are using the trail. So we had seven speakers, most of which are represented in this picture, representing our localities and state and regional partners. And it really has been a long time coming. And I think many would agree that this opening of this particular section of the trail really has added a lot of momentum to people's engagement with the trail. And they're excited to see where the trail will further be developed, but also the other kinds of opportunities the trail will bring as it relates to placemaking and community connections and more of what we'll talk about later. Um, in case you don't know, and also for the posterity of our recording, folks in this are executives or elected officials from the town of Ashland, Henrico County, Hanover County. We have CBTA, VDOT, and the General Assembly and sports backers in this. I think I've gotten everyone here. And it just, you can see that it really takes a village to build something. You might think that trails are simple, but turns out it takes a lot of people to make them happen. And we couldn't have done it without these fine folks and many people who are not in the picture. And about 24 hours after the ribbon cutting, it took us a few months to really plan all of this stuff out. We're extremely proud at Bike Walk RVA and Sports Backers to have given one of our almost regularly occurring awards, the Infrastructure Project of the Year award, to all of the localities and state partners that made the this section of the trail possible. In some ways, we're just getting started. We have 5 miles of about 43 miles completed, and a couple of little peppered spots of smaller sections completed today. But this really does mark the the beginning of the snowball, and it's going to really start to grow over the next several years, as many of the people in this picture can attest to, and the continued participation of people like you. So it's really heartwarming, and it really feels like we've gotten to a good kind of operational momentum, working with each other to get this trail starting to be administered. And it just goes to show, I mean, the how or it's incredibly evident if you go spend some time out on this section of the trail, just how popular and refreshing it is and how much people appreciate it. And people keep coming up to me, and I'm sure to the people in this picture and to you, saying, wow, people in my neighborhood are buying bikes for the first time as adults to get out there on the trail. They're walking with their kids, and they're experiencing their community in a different way, and there's just a lot of pride and enjoyment to go around. So you really can't convey it in a presentation like this, and if you haven't been out there, I encourage you to do so. But this mega regional team is just great to work with, and they've earned these awards. This funding status has not changed since our last meeting. We were up to about $291 million. The last action to fund something related to the fall line was the CVTA and Commonwealth Transportation Board investment in filling the
Yeah.
approximately $10 million gap for the DB2 section, which is the southern 9 miles, which I'll drop. I'll just good segue to the next slide. Um, Design build and VDOT engineers, transportation planners who feel free to chime in here, but I've said this occasionally on these meetings. Design build is a code for um, an administration practice for building these trails, meaning designing and building happens at the same time or within one contract. It's efficient administratively. It can bring the cost and time down and can typically only be done on relatively straightforward contracts. So the design build phase one, essentially a rail to trail conversion. The southern 9 miles is essentially a rail to trail conversion. These are likely the only two design build phases we'll see for the full fall line. Though I'm certainly open-minded and would love to see that explored if it ever becomes possible. And this is probably a great time. I don't have any other slides. If anyone from Chesterfield, Colonial Heights, Petersburg, VDOT want to chime in on the upcoming public hearing and the status of DB2. Okay. Um, the big news here is we don't have a lot of one of the efficient things about design build phases is they usually have um, big like robust public engagement hearings. In this case, a public hearing is scheduled for October 21st, so 2.5 weeks, just about 2 weeks, and they'll have a lot to present. It's a 10-mile section. There are a lot of new bridges. The design builders have new information to share. This is one of those times where it really is worthwhile to come to the meeting and see what is being proposed. How are they designing road crossings? How are they designing, where in various corridors are they actually putting the specific trail? Those details are, of course, very important. And particularly folks with local knowledge of the lay of the land could have very useful comments to be incorporated by VDOT and their contractors. So we look forward to seeing you there. It's certainly open to the public. You don't have to be in Colonial Heights, Chesterfield, or Petersburg to go. Though I think that you'd imagine most people who go to those meetings would be. But I certainly plan to go and hope to see you there. And there are no other additional updates on the project status. The good news is things are moving forward in parallel in Henrico County on DB1, or excuse me, DB2, and in the city of Richmond. So we'll have in the next 12 months, we'll have multiple projects underway at the same time, and we're going to get a little bit dizzy going to groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings, and that'll be kind of fun, I think. Just a little quick update on um, some of the work that we've been doing that might not be uh, extremely visible, at least not yet. We have had the great fortune of being recruited as a topic of interest for various academic research. We're currently working with 3 universities in different contexts to study the fall line in from different viewpoints or perspectives or technical backgrounds. The one project that's underway now is we're working with graduate landscape architecture students from Virginia Tech to do landscape design study. So this is not a professional plan, but it's um, students are using the fall line in Lakeside to as a palette for studying landscape and trail oriented landscape design and placemaking features, utility for trail users, and kind of painting a big visionary picture of what the experience of the fall line could look like in this particular part of the alignment in Henrico County. Um, I've had the opportunity to work with student groups like this before, and sometimes their work is largely about teaching the students skills, and then sometimes the product ends up being valuable to our local decision makers. And I'm hoping that we can get both of those in this case. And the 4 students that we did a tour for last month were really excited about the project, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with that. We're in the early phases, and actually, our potential graduate student to work with us is on the call today, or I saw her name earlier. For a future semester, we're looking at working with a graduate planning student at Virginia Commonwealth University to explore and really provide analytical guidance for our local partners, in particular the City of Richmond, but I would like to see the opportunity to expand that if possible, where we could make investments in problem solving related to heat and floodwater. There's certainly some sections of the South Richmond and Northern Chesterfield section have flooding or don't have a lot of shade-bearing trees, for example. And there are funding sources out there that want to buy rain gardens and they want to fund tree development. And it's a great opportunity for us to work with partners along the corridor to do both at once as the trail is built, build in some of these features. And unfortunately, we have not been able to seek some of that funding for rain gardens in particular because the funder needed some additional analysis. So we were trying to help kind of put that puzzle together to help get those funds. And then at Virginia State University, we have uh, seemingly an opportunity to work in two parallel projects. And maybe one will happen, maybe both will happen. But they look to be excited to explore analyzing the fall line as a whole to make a regional or maybe even bigger than region economic impacts potential analysis. So what kind of economic growth is possible if we do the right things? At the last meeting in July, we gave a quick overview of what the city of Richmond put together for their early thoughts on the economic impact for the city of Richmond, but the region is, of course, much bigger and multifaceted, and we'd love to have a graduate student explore that at Virginia State. And they also have a graphic design and computer science program, and we explained that we're going to be investing in renderings and greater visual storytelling around the fall line to put on our website, to put out into the community, and they expressed some interest in having that be a student project that would work sort of alongside what we're going to be having professionals put together for us. So it just feels so great to have partners from around the region wanting to explore this and use this as a jumping off point and a study of or a point of study because it is such a vibrant, multifaceted project that also could really benefit from having lots of eyes and lots of expertise applied to it. Okay. Another long list, and I promise I'm not going to be just talking to you this whole time. We've got a guest speaker that I'm getting to pretty shortly. I think you'll be excited to hear from. But just out in the community, I don't have a whole lot of specific pictures from these um, working with some limited Wi-Fi here at the park. But Henrico hosted its first bike-themed event at Henbico last month, and we tabled at a very exciting. We were a very popular table at the Henbico vendor spot this past month. We've gone to the City of Richmond's RVA Builds Symposium, which used to be the Speed Symposium. People are super excited to hear about the development of the fall line. We hosted our own RVA Bike Awards. It's about our fifth or sixth time doing that. And that, again, that was where we awarded our locality partners, among other great awardees. Um, since the last time we talked, we have really gotten to into the groove of working with our new executive director, Will Dixon, who introduced himself at the Central Virginia Transportation Authority at their last meeting to seemingly great reception, and we look forward to continuing to work with that body. The Virginia Capitol Trail, I think I saw Kat on, I don't have my participant list up right now, but I think I saw her on, celebrated their 10th birthday, which is extremely exciting. And it couldn't be said um, more strongly or more effectively that the fall line couldn't even be the possibility that it is today without the success of the Virginia Capitol Trail. And we should all be very proud of that trail. I'm currently at the Virginia Conservation Network annual retreat where we're working with our statewide partners to think about how trail investment at the state level is important to lots of different organizations, and we are a part, and we also, of course, even oversee a number of coalition efforts, and we're very happy to be here. And again, Pocahontas State Park is such a gem. Coming up in about 3 weeks, we have the Fall Line Trailblazer hikes, uh, our free hike sort of exploration of the forthcoming trail. We're still putting together the specific hikes, but every year we do one in the northern area, one somewhere central, and one in the southern part of the trail to show what is coming. And we have a couple of conversations going with local partners that we want to really dial before we announce anything. But we're looking to very much to do that same format, and we hope to show you a new section of the trail this year. In particular, we've had a little hard time getting people to come to the southern end, and if you're listening now and you are available on October 25th, uh, please consider spending a little bit of time with us on the Colonial Heights section because it'll be part of of DB2, so it's about to start to be administered, but also the um, it's pretty cool, and we encourage you to get a new perspective on kind of the bigger trail experience and not just what might be the closest section to you. Natalie and I are going to the Rails to Trails Conservancy Summit, the Trail Nation Summit in Ohio later this month. It seems to be really geared towards the kind of work that we want to do, and our kind of medium-term goal is to ensure that the Fall Line is recognized as one of the leading trails in the country. We're standing on the very big shoulders of some amazing trails around the country, and it's our responsibility to be as good or maybe just be a little bit better than them in our vision. And one day, people will come to us so that they can try to eclipse the Fall Line as well. So that's like the best case scenario. And taking the Fall Line to get some national attention is going to be helpful for our fundraising, for fundraising the specific placemaking projects that will actually help the Fall Line become the best version of itself, and really keep the momentum as it relates to construction funding, which is its own topic of conversation that I won't get into too much today. And then my last thing before I think I'm going to get ready to turn it over to our guest speaker and open it up to the floor. Um, we are always recruiting advocates to support the Fall Line, the placemaking around it, and of course, broader bike and pedestrian infrastructure and safety. So if anyone comes to mind as someone who'd like to roll up their sleeves and join like-minded individuals to learn some skills and then get out there to help projects like the Fall Line come to fruition. The Bike Walk Academy is the place to do that. There's a page on our Bike Walk RVA website, or just reach out to Natalie or me, and we would love for you to help find us some good candidates. We've had 240 people go through that program in the past 12 years, and we like to keep it about 20 people a year, and keeps that math really easy in our annual reports. Okay, these are some pictures from our recent community engagement, hikes, bike races, happy hours, getting people out along the trail. And Biko was a lot of fun. And I didn't design it, but I've heard that people really love this chicken or a hen, you could say, wearing a bike helmet. And I hope that Henrico continues to make these kinds of graphics. It'd be kind of fun. Okay, I'm going to breeze through a couple of slides. If anyone wasn't able to make the last of these meetings back in July, just as a quick overview, one of the now signature ways that we want to make sure that the Fall Line is really that we do our best to engage the community in lots of different levels is to ensure that we bring a lot of organizational partners into the fold. And in so doing, we think that when we have partners that embody some various categories like housing, tree development, smart growth, and conservation, accessibility, and that's accessibility across a lot of different varieties. And there's physical accessibility, mental accessibility, language and cultural accessibility. These are all very important to get right if we want people to actually use the trail and welcome the trail's development in their communities. And I feel like I'm missing one. Art, a big one, art. We need the Fall Line can be a driver and a supporter of a lot of these things that are happening in there or independently. And we also think the Fall Line will be better if a lot of these things are done well. So it's a natural opportunity for us to work together So we founded the Fall Line Placemaking Collaborative, which we intend to be a quarterly program where we meet with 30 or more organizational participants and community members to really kind of align our vision and work on projects together, share volunteer resources and other insight. And we had our two sessions, our kickoff sessions back in June. Lots of organizational partners. Some great themes came out of it in terms of really nailing some of our shared vision. And today, um, we want to take our first step at using the Friends of the Fall Line platform as a way to highlight and bring into the fold some of these organizational partners. And one of the things that came into light early, even well before we started the Placemaking Collaborative, was the topic of the proposed Manchester Art Park. And I won't go into too much detail because we have guest speakers to describe what they're doing, but it is very close to the proposed fall line alignment. It is under the Manchester Bridge, which is the crossing of the James River that the fall line will use and is partially funded. So, with that, I'm going to just stop sharing my screen and let Katie and Ian introduce themselves and share their screen.
All right. Is my screen coming through real quick?
Yep.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name's Ian. Brantley gave a soft little invite, but this right here is Richmond's first public art park. We were already working on it for about a year until I met Brantley at a Manchester Alliance meeting. And as he was talking, I realized that we're kind of talking about the same location that crossed over. Right here, we have a little 3D rendering of the space that we use as just like a quick intro. But this has now been 3 years that we've been working on this project. Richmond's Public Art Park is meant to solve a lot of problems that we currently face in Richmond, as well as add to missing infrastructure that I think is fundamental to a successful arts city that we find ourselves right here. So graffiti is covering businesses, private property, historic natural landmarks, all sorts of things. Come to find out along the line of just how much money is being spent every single year. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars just removing basic minor graffiti. So for me, that's a massive problem. I run a business as well. I'm on Broad Street. I see how this is ending up a lot of the time. And I think for me personally, the mission that drives me forward is that I also am an artist, but I realize that we're in an art city and there's literally no place that you can actually train to become an artist, hone your craft, meet up with other artists, learn the rules of the road, the respectful aspects of how a fleshed out, fully running public art scene can be. I think there's a major missing of passing of the torch. And I think a space that this can be created where everyone is able to meet can solve all these problems that you see right. Before I get too far ahead of myself, I just dove into it. I definitely want to introduce Katie Cortez real quick, who's my talented architect that's been working alongside me for years now. Katie's brilliant at what she does. She's constantly guiding us along and making sure that we're actually doing what we're supposed to be doing in the right way.
Thanks, Ian. Hi, everyone. I'm
And
Katie.
Ben,
I'm going to let Ian run the show, but Ben White is also with us too. He's sort of the third partner in here, who's our resident landscape aficionado, who's helping us with also a lot of stuff and moving us forward. So,
yep, that's right. And so right here, I think these are just a few things. This is a quick summary. So we're trying to summarize like 3 years worth of work. Hopefully I'm as good at summarizing things, but just from doing this alone and building and spending the money and creating this public art park, I think we're freeing up hundreds of thousands of dollars of public money, of private money. I've come aware of how much nonprofits around the city are actually paid to cover up the graffiti. A lot of the times it's not actually the city doing it as well. So there's oh, hello. Good. Hold on a second. I'm on a Zoom call. What's going on? Is this a shipment? Okay. We just set it out there. Just right there. Yeah, yeah. It's good. Sorry about that. I'm in my art supply store. Sorry about that. Anyways, so again, we're trying to solidify Richmond as a public arts destination, as a fleshed out, fully realized public art scene. And I think there's a few things that are missing. And I think having a space where you can essentially meet every single type of artist is going to fill that gap. And so we have new artists that are looking to go into the arts world. We have fully realized professional international artists that are floating around Richmond. And a lot of times there just isn't a connecting point. So this place is the initial place that inspired me to kind of realize what was truly missing in Richmond. I took a month and a half in Amsterdam. I got to stay with, if anyone's familiar with the muralist, Nils Westergaard. He has a beautiful little apartment spot that's right alongside the canal, and about a couple minute bike ride away, this is Flevo Park in Amsterdam. And they use the actual pylons of the bridge to create walls that anyone and everyone can come through. This was a rainy Tuesday that I happened to be just painting there, and I met 5 artists that day. A few of them were already friends. A few of them became new friends, and I learned something about making and understanding better how to use aerosol spray paint better. And so there's a huge aspect of this that there's a guaranteed location to go and paint. And because of that, this is freeing up historic buildings from being tagged, because you know you have a place, you know you have a better wall, and you know you can meet other artists there and make new friends and learn the tools of the trade. This one is another one that's a street tunnel. It's an underpass that they used in Atlanta. We actually have somewhere, I think it might be north of 30 now, of separate art parks from all around, of different styles, all around the country and throughout Europe. They are all over the place. And Amsterdam, after making Flevo Park, they're actually making another one because they found that it worked so well. This one's a little bit of a different style, where they commissioned the artist to cover the pylons and creating a fully activated space. You can see with scooters and bikes, everyone rides through just to see that the new artist that has gone up right there. I actually talked to this man right here. His name is Jose Venegas. That he is responsible for the first public art park. So it's a public and private. It was on private property, but he was curator. He's responsible for the first one in the country. He was faced when he was very young with either essentially gangbanging or graffiti, of which he chose the latter, and he now travels all around the world. He puts up pieces, he spray paints, he does murals. He has been responsible for, last I talked to him, it was somewhere around the start of 200 businesses that he's using this fostering program and this space to meet young students that they then turn into apprentices, which turns into a job, which turns into a career. And next thing you know, you have a beautiful, thank you, dude, a beautiful muralist traveling out in the world, or a business owner, or anything along those lines. He's a super nice guy. He even offered to fly out here to Richmond to help make sure that we can get our art park. So here where we are now, we're in communication with the mayor's office. Last we spoke to was with Lawson, his chief of staff. And she was essentially giving us, I got to be careful with the language here, I'm being very respectful, is that we do not have the project green lit, but she has given us the go ahead to fully flesh out the plans in order to make our full presentation, to then present every single detail from timeline to materials, to the full sanctioning of the space with DPW coming on board. And every single aspect that it takes to build out a project, a lot of which that we're also honestly deeply admirable of what Brantley is doing and his whole team. We're constantly learning from their scope. I think I've been kind of repeatedly saying this now, but I think it's seeing a project done at the scale that it's like, if he can do it, then we can do this project as well. And the coincidence of where it actually crosses over in relation to the Fall Line Trail is nothing but providence. So we have some feedback right here. I don't want to read everything, but there was a huge aspect of us speaking to DPW because they are the technical owners of the land, that there was some level of defaulting essentially responsibility for the location to VDOT, as well as the worries that they had about the possibility of a park being underneath a bridge. This right here is all of their feedback. Essentially, to cut it kind of short, they're like, it's not a huge deal. Don't put explosives under there. And this is up to DPW. And so that's a huge hope of what we're doing, is actually fully partnering with them and creating a public art park as opposed to a private art park, because there is a long history, even including some of the ones that I showed you previously, of these places being bought up, destroyed over time, turned into low-income housing, whatever it is. We keep losing art parks, and I think the significance of doing this way is that it's a generational park, that this is a passing of the torch, not just for my generation or the younger, but for years to come. And with that, it comes great stewarding and great love and care that goes into creating a park that is honestly for everyone. It is the opposite of a gatekeeping project. This is the most inclusive large-scale project that I've ever worked on. Hold on, I got my cameras moving all over. So here's the promise, essentially what I'm saying right here. We promise to create, steward, foster in this new park as a staple of Richmond's creative community. We're committed to collaborative relationship with city departments, following trail as well, in all relevant areas, and be on top of the problem solving, management, and implementation. More prosperous, beautiful, and creatively strong city and community will follow. That is my promise with making this space. This is what has compelled me for 3 years. And every single aspect of this has been difficult, but it's something that I truly believe in. And with the team at the Little Giant Society, as well as the good people at the Fall Line Trail and within the city, it's going to happen. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ian, Katie, and Ben. I'd love to open this up to any questions. Like this is a bit of a expansion, I guess, of what traditionally the Friends of the Phone Line has been, which is often a quarterly update of administrative stuff, like construction timelines and that sort of thing. But I really think it's our role at Sports Backers to make sure that we're communicating and sharing and uplifting a vision for not just the asphalt aspect of the fall line, but how people will use it, where people will go. And I would love for anyone on the call to have questions or comments or anything. And I've really appreciated the time and attention that this group has had. And if it wasn't particularly clear, I'll just reiterate: Ian, Katie, and Ben are part of a new nonprofit called the Little Giant Society. So if you see that branding, that's the ownership, I guess, of this particular concept. Don't be quiet.
We need more coffee in the room, apparently.
I think so.
I have a question.
Who's that?
So this is Alex Dom, Venture Richmond. I love the idea of a place where people can hone the sort of medium, which is obviously very unique and needs large spaces to be able to do it. But so have we seen, and obviously that's a benefit in and of itself. Have we seen sort of a correlation between a place to do this and a reduction in general tagging? Because when I'm cleaning off graffiti, and I was actually just doing a panel this weekend where I described a situation where I was having to spend less on bike infrastructure like runnels because I had to spend too much on graffiti removal that year. Do we see this like actually reduce tagging and the sort of the less artistic elements of graffiti in the cities where these programs are implemented?
So yes, absolutely. That's what I was trying to allude to with the Amsterdam Art Park, Flavo Art Park. I've actually spoken to their government over there as well. Turns out they have a WhatsApp that you can just message them. And they were sharing some of their data around that, and that's essentially why they're doubling down. They're doing another art park. I think this is ubiquitous across the board of every single. I've even talked to police departments of other art parks, and they say that the art parks are cleaner than the rest of the city. Like there's another one in San Francisco that so many people want to be there and foster it. Like it's a third space. If you're familiar with the term, people truly desire to be there. And the aspect of making and creating, that's a huge part of like what we're going to be doing rather than controlling it or saying no to people painting there. It's to foster a healthy culture. And I've been a full-time artist here in Richmond for about 12 years now. I run an art supply store that I'm in, receiving deliveries right now, one of which is sitting on the side of the road right now on Broad Street. But it's meeting people with where they're at. I have students come in, I have professionals come in, I show featured artists, and there is a
Telling me now for the first time.
I'm sorry, I heard something. I don't know what that was. Anyway, so it's actually stewarding the space and creating a healthy location. So when someone does say spray paint a random building or will try to partake in the community and then you see their name, there's a huge part of graffiti is writing a name. It might not be your name, but it's some way of being known while remaining anonymous. So when there's a meeting inflection point of all the artists in the same space, if you're doing wrong by either other people in the community or by other artists, this really comes to a head. Either it's talked about or it's shunned, and that's a serious aspect of you have to find where the lines are. And I think a lot of the random graffiti that ends up around the city is honestly from people who think that that's graffiti and don't know any better because no one's ever told them. So when there's a space and you have professionals who are traveling around the world stopping in and they put up a mural or a beautiful piece on the wall, they're gonna be like, how do I do something like that? It's like, well, first off, stop tagging people's homes, stop tagging people's businesses, stop putting like etch bath or a super strong ink on the front of a window on Broad Street. And so there has been across the board, again, massive reduction in graffiti, random graffiti around cities, because a lot of the times it's about having the right space to do it. And we just don't have that.
When I would just tag on to that, like I think the conversation is actually larger than a reduction in graffiti, and it's also a cultural conversation because I think Ian brought up Jose Venegas out in California, and before he founded the art park, the public art park they had out there, I mean, he was involved in, I don't know, just other activities that he probably shouldn't have been involved in, and then started to get involved in actually making art. And it probably saved him from, a life of crime. And I think he was influential in probably helping other people to not really go down that same path. So, I think there's a larger conversation about really the cultural conversation and, training artists and teaching artists and stewarding something that is our hope for the park, that it's kind of bigger than a lot of those things.
Final piggyback would be kind of looking at the skateboard culture from the 90s. And at that point, it was kind of branded as like a criminal act. You'd see, roving bands of skaters, any given place, kind of a little bit destroying public infrastructure. And then, there was a big national movement to start erecting skate parks. And then now, that is what decades into itself. And you see a mass reduction in public skating in public areas, and the culture has gained notoriety and is now an Olympic sport and a revered thing that the culture has been given an opportunity to grow in a concerted space.
This is a fun discussion. I want to say, and this will be on my last slide as it always is. We've got a bit of a collage of the various places we've gone over the years, and you go to the Red Line area on the Metropolitan Branch Trail, and they have a quarter mile of murals, and it is co-located with Aretha Tanner Park, which is a multi-use park that has events and movie screenings. And when there aren't events, it's great for like a quad and going out for picnics or sitting on the grass. And there's shade structures and there's art, structural art. I don't just want I don't think that the fall line should have them just because we're checking a box, but we think about it how these are conduits to the trail, and they're also why people will want to use the trail. I think that the synergy there is great, and Ian, if you want to share any documentation about the reduction of graffiti in the traditional sense, I feel like that word is a little bit loaded, but like the kind of unauthorized tagging, we love to incorporate that in some of our or some of our materials as well, because this is conversation is probably going to come up in many places along our 43-mile corridor. And I appreciate your time today. And again, we're kind of connecting some dots here, but at the end of the day, it would be a wonderful experience to take the trail to your proposed art park and at a beautiful scene on the river on one of my favorite or under one of my favorite bridges. I'm always describing it as a mid-century modern coffee table, but except you're under it. And I think that's such a great. There's so much to work with there, and it highlights some of the great things that we have in our city.
Oh, I'm so honored. Thank you for the opportunity. I think this is project is incredible. So the chance to work with you guys, it means the world, and to bring this project to life as well as the larger scope of things. I think both of the projects we're talking about are cultural in in many ways, a larger part than they are infrastructure. So I love Richmond. I'm here for the long term, and the team that we've had come together around this is brilliant, and you guys are awesome. So thank you to you and Natalie for having us here.
And Ben, I'll get you on the slide the next time. Sorry about that.
Okay, all good.
All right. Well, in close, we've been talking about art and its strategic use to help develop the fall line. And I'll say again, we have a little over $100 million still to raise, and I think strategically we need to think about growing momentum and community support for the fall line in order to get there. It has to be prioritized at lots of different levels: local, state, regional, federal, and those the shell game and the kind of the political reality of what funding is available changes seasonally or at least every couple of years. And we have to be ready to strike. And one of the ways to do that is just to make the trail and the things that the trail will connect very popular and visual or visible in that sense. So the we've been talking about this for a long time with the Fall Line Vision Plan, and this is a part of essentially our role in implementing the Fall Line Vision Plan is to find partners like Little Giant Society to bring vibrancy to this corridor. And here's some beautiful gardens on or art along the Metropolitan Branch Trail with their great wayfinding too. Oh, I see a hand raised. Go ahead, Philip.
Hey, Brantley. Just from Hanover standpoint, we awarded a contract for the permanent signage along the section of Fall Line Trail in Hanover that's open. So the permanent signage should be up there sometime within the next 2 months or so, no later than the end of the year. But one thing that our county administration wanted to discuss with the group is possibly installing quarter-mile marker signs or uh, markers somehow for EMS purposes. So just wanted to bring that up.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. We have a couple of minutes, and I think we may be in a situation where this is more conversational than anything.
Okay.
Uh, let's definitely explore this. We don't currently have a regional body, just for everyone's awareness. The CVTA's Fall Line Working Group and the CVTA funded and administered the contract for the wayfinding study. Um, and its Fall Line Working Group talked through a lot of the details about intervals and other things. Um, so it was determined, I want to say about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, that the region committed to half-mile intervals instead of full mile, and recognizing that was you double the cost, and so that was a consideration.
Yeah.
So to double again to quarter-mile intervals is on the table, but it's just recognizing there's a cost associated, and not
Sure.
just in the production, but the installation and maintenance and all that. Um, so I would love to open it. We have a couple of well-researched people on this call that I'd love to open the floor to, in particular Andy and Phil Riggin, but anyone else. But I'll start by saying I am unaware of quarter mile markers anywhere in Virginia. I've seen them in a couple of more like neighborhood-oriented trails elsewhere. So I just want to say that I don't think that there is any real expectation that that needs to be done. but certainly there's some benefit there. So I'll open the floor.
This is Kat. I know with the Capitol Trail, what we've done with local jurisdictions, specifically with EMS and police, is we've just met with them and kind of trained them on where the mile markers are on the trail. My recommendation at the minimum would be kind of a training session with your EMS and police so that, and then of course providing maps and things. And so that's how we've done things at the Capitol Trail, and it's worked pretty well. The hardest part is when folks are out on the trail and
Yeah.
they say, "I'm at mile marker 22," and sometimes it takes a minute for folks who are responding to the call to understand what that means. For us, we've just tried to do our best with training and working with them. So that's how we've done it on the Capitol Trail.
Yep. And we've done that. We've met with our emergency services personnel, and they've already GIS the entry points and the mile markers into their system. The concern is just that if something happens on the fall line trail and you're in between half mile markers and you're not really sure where you are, how does a user of the trail relay their location to the EMS? If you're just kind of in that dead zone, but I mean, it is a half mile. It's not that long. Uh, EMS should be able to find you.
Go ahead,
Hey,
Alex.
this is Jake. Sorry,
Oh,
I couldn't
go ahead,
find
Jake.
I
Go ahead,
couldn't
Jake.
find, I couldn't, I apologize. I can't find the raise hand things. Otherwise, I would have been more polite. No, just from kind of our experience in the city and others that we've had kind of research into, the mile markers do not really provide any real utility from the standpoint of EMS. E911 is going to provide almost coverage almost everywhere. And in most cases, you're not going to be proximate to a marker. So to say, oh, I'm at mile marker X, and without that also being geo-referenced for EMS, like in the city, the primary reason we did that on the mountain bike and running trails, North Bank, Buttermilk and everything, was to serve as reference points for ingress and egress for EMS, since you can't get onto and off of the trail with ease, since they're, native surface, steep terrain, et cetera, like that.
Alex?
Is anyone here familiar with the what three words geolocation?
I was going to bring that up.
It seems
Yep.
like getting
Very good.
more adoption with emergency services into that. I mean, if for those of you who are not familiar, as it turns out, you can geolocate yourself within feet by using a three-word code. And so, this requires you to have a mobile device, right? But you can communicate exactly where you are within something, what is it, 15 feet or something? Brantley doesn't remember.
I think it's a 3-meter square.
Right. So yeah.
Or hexagon.
Yeah. So but just by remembering three words. So in order to figure out where you are, you'd say, if you're, downtown at Kanawha Plaza, you would say, for example, device scary rapid, and that will let emergency services know exactly where you are on a map rather than having to give them a set of coordinates, right? And I feel like in areas like the James River Park system and the Fall Line Trail, and any area where it's difficult, you can't give someone two cross streets. It's got to be the fastest way to communicate this to emergency services.
Alex, this is again, this is conversational. I would love to help Philip and others kind of have more actionable conversations moving forward. But I feel like, what's our 10-year plan here? And like, do we really want? I mean, a point was brought up in previous conversations about this. How do you tell EMS where you are if you are not within visual shot of of one in one direction or the other, one of the mile markers. And like that doesn't exist in all kinds of places on the Virginia Capitol Trail. It doesn't exist in all kinds of places on the JRPS trails or in Pocahontas. So I don't think that's a standard that we have to meet. Um, However, and also if we now double the doubled uh, signage interval, I think we're talking about a few $1 million, if not more, along the 43 miles. If I remember, it's is it 143 mile markers? I think we're at right now. So that's it ends up or plus wayfinding signage. So it ends up being um, pretty like notable cost. Could we instead at the beginning really normalize the use of three words by having awareness signage of that at trail entrances? And I think that could actually be really interesting. It could actually be the thing that kicks off three words in a lot of other first response um, important locations. And I think about like no, very few people walk without a phone these days, and it's a pretty useful tool for that. And if you're calling 911, you're doing that on a phone too. Though I think there's a lot of targeting with 911 these days that wasn't available previously. So I think I'm leaning towards recommending that, though I'm not in a position where I can really do anything more than recommend. I feel like that is a really novel and going to be expanding tool, and we learned about it when our staff was getting first aid trained. So like people who do this stuff know about it.
Yeah, and that also sort of raises the question, like if EMS is having a hard time finding mile marker 26, is it really that much helpful to tell them that you're at 26 and a quarter or three quarters? Um, yeah, I think it's an open question.
You got something to say, Andrew? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that with most the built-in like SOS response that all the smartphones have now, they by default share a GPS coordinate. So like it's different from using calling 911 if it has that emergency like SOS sort of button, and that automatically will put a pin out, and I think that would alleviate a lot of those of not even having to like verbally make a description. That pin, from my understanding, gets sent out straight to EMS when you use that feature.
Any other discussion? Philip, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I fully understand both sides of the discussion here. I mean, I don't, I kind of agree. Having it at half miles and using the EMS should be able to locate anybody on the full line trail when people are calling using their phone. And the what three words is definitely an interesting tool. So I'm fine with leaving it as is. It's just something I had to bring up because our county admin expressed an interest in it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, I'm happy to keep the conversation going, and I think at this point, I think it would be appreciated by many if there was consistency across the region, and
Yep.
so it could end up being um, from where I sit, I think it would be helpful to not have sections that have more amenities than others or like a different frequency or like, there's a reason why we have the regional colors and
Sure.
everything like that. So I'm more than happy to keep the conversation going here or in another format. The CVTA could update its wayfinding plan, and that would require, some administrative
Yep.
action. So, we'll help you however you like. I think we could also explore things like stencils that volunteers could put down on the asphalt
Yeah.
itself, and like that could actually be maybe playful or colorful and some. So it doesn't have to end with just the three words or nothing kind of thing, but that, and we want to play in that space too, so that it could be iterative instead of having to decide it now.
Okay. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw a couple hands up. Are you just showing that you know how it works now, Jake?
Yeah, I had to use for some reason none of my icons and stuff are showing up, and so I was using the Alt Y function combination. So I don't know why all my stuff isn't showing up.
Oh, that's fun. Okay. Well, we're getting
But
towards the
there's
end
a
of the
secret
meeting.
for everyone, Alt plus Y if you can't find your raise hand button.
I like this might not get shown in the recording, so I'm gonna read Phil's latest chat, which is Fall Line Trail goes to Derbyshire, England. It's kind of funny. I wonder if we can fix that. Call somebody. All right. Well, our next meeting is January 14th, 2026.
Brandon, I did want to add one thing.
Sure.
All of that CVTA stuff that I linked in there, we to your point, I think you could go back, but I think that was what the committee decided on with the half-mile markers. I didn't have a chance to read through the document that well. I did want to add one other thing, and I've been riding the fall line a little bit. There is a bike counter on there, and that is just at the Winfrey Road area, which is in Henrico, on the south side of that bridge. That was placed there by VDOT, and we're sort of that's the first counter that I know of in that section, at least the new section. But the TPMD, David Cook and his group were in charge of installing that. And the hope is that we will have more counters. And I'm working on a plan with Plan RVA to try to get not just for Fall Line, but for any new project, some funding for counters and what that might cost and things like that. But it'd be an extension really of all the good work that VDOT has done to kind of capture around the state all the different bike counter locations.
That's great news, Phil. I want to say it's 11:30. If you have to jump off, please do. I would love to talk about this for a couple more minutes, and Jake's got his hand up. And we're definitely at a time where we should start thinking about them before we have to go retrofit them and make bumps on the trail. Jake?
Yeah, just real quick, question for Phil. Do you still have the traffic's tube counters?
Yeah, yes, we do. You were one of the main users when you were with the city, Jake, and we still have ours. As far as I know, the battery is dead, and it's still got the 3G, 5G conversion issue. Part of our deal is we want to upgrade all our equipment for Plan RVA and to bring back that lending program that you were a big participant in.
Yeah, we never used the any of the transmission, just downloaded it via the USB. I was going to say, so the pyro counter that's out there captures all users going past, but it doesn't differentiate between bike and pedestrian because it's just counting the number of people each direction that kind of breaks the beam. So if you wanted to put those tube counters out, you would be able to capture the specific bike data and scooters. It would capture that. But you would be able to do a modal split if we had it proximate to where the pyro is, because you could then parse out how many of those are bikes versus our combined numbers, because the pyro does not differentiate.
Right.
Fun. This is a great conversation, guys. Appreciate your time this morning. It's an exciting time for the fall line. The leaves are going to start changing in Hanover, so get out there and get the good views. Send us some pictures, and we'll see you January 14th, if not sooner.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Brantley.